Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. So here we'll have this picture about how payment works, and we'll see step by step, and we'll cover everything that we're going to talk about over here in our next videos. Now, payment is a very complex process, and a lot of beginners or intermediate developers, they make a lot of mistakes and they don't understand how this thing works. Anyway, so I made this picture so that everything is visualized, and it would give you a better idea that how everything works. Anyway, so let's get started. So first, the app over here, not app, this picture, it has actually three sections. This is our app, or our client would be here, and this is our server or our controller, which will process everything. Controller would be a part of our server, and then we have the Stripe and Stripe server actually. Now over here, this is our app, and in our app, clients may initiate a transaction, or client may request for buying an item, product, or course. Okay, so in our case, we'll assume that our client or user would try to buy a product. So in this case, in our controller, which would reside in our server, like controller would be a class, and in the class there would be a method. The method is a checkout method. Now from our app, we'll visit this checkout method through an endpoint, which we'll see later. The endpoint doesn't really matter, I mean, it's just a setup, but actually the method itself does everything. Now, in our checkout method, we'll check few things. First, we'll check if a certain product exists or not, or in our case, we'll see a course exists or not, and then we'll see an order exist or not. Like this certain user over here is trying to buy a product or a course. First, we have to make sure it exists in our database or not, and then we'll also have to make sure that whether client has already placed an order, similar order like that or not. Okay, so we need to check both of them. So if product doesn't exist, we'll return because there is no product, so we don't need to go further. And if the same order already exists in our database, so as you can see over here, actually we're going to talk with database all the time. From this checkout method, we're going to talk with the database. So if the order already exists, the similar order, then we'll still go back to our app and we'll tell our client that, okay, you already bought it, so you don't need to. Well, if the order doesn't exist, which means that user didn't buy anything, then we'll place the order. As we place the order, once again, we'll store our information in our database about this order, and all the things that one of the field that we'd be using, and which is very important in our database, well, in our table, we'll have a field called status. Of course, our table name would be order, which I didn't put it over here, but you get the idea. So in our order table, in the database, in our order table, the field is status is 0. And you need to set it to 0 initially. And why? The reason is because this is just an order placement in our database. Well, in this time, the actual payment hasn't done yet, because payment happens through third-party API. Okay, so if we can make payment later on, we'll set the status to 1. Okay, we'll see that how and in what step it happens. Okay, so anyway, so here if we can place an order, we'll set the status to 0. And after that, we'll come back to our checkout API over here, or checkout method. And then we'll submit the order in our Stripe server. So that's the third step. So in step 1, so we just verify a few information, product exists or not, order exists or not. And then we'll place the order, saving the database. So that's our step 2. In step 3, actually, we take some of this information, the one that already we have over here about the product, about the user. So we submit this information in our Stripe server. Okay, and after submitting this information, of course, Stripe server will verify us that whether we are verified user or not. So we have to submit this information with Stripe API key, which we'll see in the video how to get that. Okay. All right. So now after that, well, once we submit the order, Stripe will give us an URL. So we have to use that URL for payment. So why Stripe will give us this URL? The reason is because we need to fill in our information because we are going to make payment, right? We are going to make payment. So that's why we'll have to fill in our name, most probably our email address, our credit card information, of course, and as well as like your phone number, maybe, or address. Okay, so that's why Stripe will give us an URL. So we have to take that URL. So it would be our step 4, and then we'll come back to controller again, and then controller would show this URL to the app. Okay, so now our client will get this URL, which would be a web view. Okay, so once that is done, so our app will submit all this information like username, email, credit card information, and payment amount, things like that. Okay, so here I have the app again because I didn't want to connect a line over here. Okay, so over here our app would submit this information in Stripe. By the way, by this time, once you first in step 3 you place an order, submit order information in Stripe, a payment session is created and it's alive for an amount of time. So our app uses this URL to submit information, and that goes to our payment session. Okay, so once the payment is done, Stripe would give us a success and cancel URL so that the user can know that the payment has been done. Okay, of course, by this time, if user wants, they can also cancel the payment. So that's why it will return you both success and cancel. And at the same time, while all this thing happens, because these are all asynchronous operation from here, so Stripe will also have an endpoint. Stripe server itself will have an endpoint, and that endpoint actually we have to design and put it in our Stripe server, actually in our Stripe dashboard. So our app would know that endpoint. In general, those endpoints called hook. Okay, so that similar endpoint and the name would be also alive and stay in our controller. So in our controller, actually we'll have 2 endpoints. One is a checkout endpoint, the other one is webhook endpoint. Okay, all right. And the same endpoint name will also have in our Stripe. Okay, but I call it Stripe hook, but eventually actually the name would be similar. You can name them anything, but make sure that the name is similar. So, well, after payment is done, from this payment session, Stripe would contact with us through this hook. The similar hook would exist in our controller. So Stripe can find us using this hook. So it would find us and give us information. And what information it would give us? It would give us charge.succeeded. So there are a few other information it may give you, but if you're successful, it would give you charge.succeeded or charge.payment successful or charge.intent successful. So similar object actually it will give you. So Stripe hook would give us this object, and this object we can grab in our own controller, which is also a hook. Once again, these 2 hooks are similar, which we'll see in video. So once we get this object in our webhook endpoint, we would know that yes, the payment was successful. And if the payment was successful, then we'll see how to set up our database, how to update, actually not set up. So remember earlier we said that the status was 0. So once we get this charge.succeeded, this object from our Stripe server, then this is the time that we set status equal 1, which means that a complete successful order of a product. Okay, so database would update itself from this webhook, and that's a complete cycle of our payment API. So in summary, what's going to happen? App will connect to our endpoint name is checkout, and it would check few information, and once we see that order was not placed before for a certain item, we'll make an order or place an order first in our database, and then we'll place the same order in our Stripe API using our API key, and Stripe would take that API and information in the API and actually in the call, and then it would return us a payment URL to our app. So our app would take user information, credit card information, and submit it in Stripe in a payment session. And once that's done, Stripe would give a success and cancel URL to present to the user whether it was successful or canceled. And in case it was successful, Stripe payment session will talk to our server that, okay, payment was successful and I can also help you update your database. So over here, it would give us this charge.succeeded information or object, but there are related other objects. We can also grab that. Once we get that one, we'll update our database, the status equal 1, which finishes as a complete payment API. So now we are going to build our payment endpoint, actually checkout endpoint. All right, so that's what we are going to do. Now my server is up and running. I'm going to close this. And first few things we have to do. First, we're going to make a controller. So PHP artisan make controller. We'll call it payment controller. Okay, all right. So this has been created. Now I think I created inside wrong folder. So I need to actually create it inside API folder. Like this. Okay, now this is correct. And now if we open it up, I think there's this one. I'm going to delete that. Okay, right, because we're gonna work on this payment controller first. All right, okay, cool. Now this payment controller will have an endpoint defined, and we'll call it like checkout. Okay. All right, and here we'll have payment controller at, and then the method will call it checkout. Okay, all right. So let's save this. Now, since our controller is here, so now we can also go ahead and keep the server up and running. And then over here, we are going to say public function checkout. All right, okay, now we want to get the request object from this request class. All right, okay, so now over here you say user equal request, and here we're going to return user. Okay, so here for now we're going to return JSON response, return I think that's a response, and JSON. All right, okay, and inside this we're gonna send some information, and here it's a code 200. Well, we don't need this last two brackets here. Okay, right, and status say true. We'll just put some dummy data here, and you can also say data, and here our user data. All right, let's see. Now let's go ahead and hit this from our endpoint. So this is our postman, and let's keep it up and running. Now if I'm going to try it now and use the postman, definitely I'm going to hit an error. Well, you may try to guess it that why, but anyway, and I'm going to add a new request. Okay, and I'm going to call it, oops, what is this? Okay, right, so I'm going to call it checkout. All right, and here we'll have 127.0.01 and 800 and API checkout. All right, and well, for now we'll stick to get, and let's see what it gets. So here, one of the classic problem which we have seen, and every time we see this kind of things, route login is not defined. That means that you are not passing token, access token or bearer token. Now why? Because you see that over here, this is once again protected by this sanctum middleware. Okay, so which is used for authentication, and we know that whenever a route is protected by sanctum middleware, you have to pass a token, otherwise you cannot go through this middleware. Okay, it will deny your request. Now we know that okay, let me see whether our previously I had any token over here. Is my app, I'm not really up and running my Flutter app. If I can use this one, let's see whether it allows us or not. Okay, just come here and select bearer token. Okay, right, so my token is still valid. So here the user ID is 2 named best tag, okay, for this token. All right, great. So this is fine. Now we did this test to know that we can access this endpoint, right? Yeah, so that's why we did that. And we also return information, status code and data, and as well as the token over here, as you can see. Okay, cool. Now over here, let's see what we could do. Now over here we're gonna install a package for payment, which is Stripe package. So composer require Stripe and Stripe PHP. So hopefully it's going to install this Stripe package or like library, and then we'll see that it's installed. Now you can also manually confirm that where it's installed. So in general, this thing should be installed once again in our vendor folder. So this is our vendor folder, and inside this we should have Stripe, as you can see. Okay, and the source code is also here. All right, so now with this our Stripe has been installed. Okay, all right, so of course we have to use a lot of information over here that's relates to Stripe. Right, so now in this section we are going to go ahead and implement the Stripe section. So very first, if we want to implement Stripe section, we need to import some classes or libraries actually. So all of this, go ahead and import them, and if you don't know where to import them from, I'll put a link below. Go there and copy them. All right, and then I'm going to create a method over here. I mean, we already have the method and we are going to work on this. All right, okay, cool. And last time we had this thing, right? Okay, cool. And I want to make sure that we can grab the token object. So over here, I think all I want is getting token. I think we can. Definitely we can. Okay, I think we have done it before. Yeah, this is a user token, right? Okay. Anyway, so after this, we gotta be over here, and we need to get a key from Stripe. Okay, get Stripe key. All right. So this is more like well, testing key. In production, you'll have production key. So you get it like this, Stripe, and then here you say set API key. Now this is coming from actually Stripe library, the one that we have installed. Okay, now if VS Code doesn't recognize, it's fine. You can ignore that, it doesn't really matter. And then over here we need to put a string, long string. And to get a string, first of course you need to go ahead in your Stripe account. So if this is your Stripe account, go ahead in your Stripe account, but of course first go ahead and register. You have to do that. And after that, over here, let's see where we can go. Now we'll go to developers over here. Okay, all right, so this is the section, and then over here we can go to API keys. All right, okay, and here we get this publishable key. This is more like our public key. Okay, so we're gonna copy this. I think it's been copied. All right, so after copying this, we're gonna come over here and put it. All right, so that's the first thing. It's a long string, very long string. Okay, so that's the first step. All right, and now here we'll have actually a course ID that would be coming from our front end. Now for this reason, we need to get the ID. So here we'll say course ID equal, let's go ahead and do that. Over here, request, not like this, request ID. All right, so what's going to happen over here in our postman, we can simulate this one. We don't have the ID yet. So ID equal 3, and make sure that it works. Okay, cool. Now if it does, then we can come over here, and so let's use this course ID over here, whether we can grab this or not, right? Make sure we do the testing. Now let's come over here. All right, so we can grab the course ID. So that's how you do that. We don't have the request yet, but we're gonna do it step by step. I mean, from the front end, there has to be an ID because you're going to buy a course. So we need to pass the course ID to back end. And as I said earlier, in Laravel, everything resides inside this request class, which is where we have an object request. So you can grab everything what is coming inside HTTP request. Okay, cool. Now this part could be, people forget it. Okay, so let me put a comment over here. This is to get the course that user buys. Okay, cool. All right, so we have this course. Now we need to do a search in our Laravel that whether this course exists or not. So we'll use Laravel Eloquent. Okay, so here search course, you can call it anything, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so over here we'll have course, there's course Eloquent, and then here we do where, and based on that we could say ID, what is it? Okay, course ID equal course ID. All right, and if it doesn't recognize like this, I think it would be a string. Yeah. Okay, and whatever it is, we get the first get. I think we need to do first method. And course is not recognized over here, and let's view it. That's fine. We can just copy this path from here and put it at the top. Okay, I'm going to put it here. Okay, now it should be recognized. Now let's make sure that our query doesn't have any error. Okay, it executed, which means that there was no error. And then we're gonna come over here. Let's see if we have course result or not. Just put it here, save it, and then okay, yes, so there is a course. That ID is 3. Okay, so we can buy that. All right, that course is marketing course, and let's do a test over here regarding course ID 1, whether we have course ID 1 or not. Yes, we do have this Flutter course ID 2. Yeah, Flutter course, well, we already have seen course ID 3. Now we're gonna try course ID 4. So there is nothing. All right, so that's fine, because I know that I only have 3 courses so far. All right, so far so good. All right, okay, after getting that, we need to do a conditional check whether it is really there. So if empty, this empty method is available in PHP. Course, search course, and then inside this over here we are checking it is empty or not. And I think I need one more bracket over here. Okay, so if the result is empty, we just want to return. And let me see how we are going to return. Okay, I'm going to copy this from here, and let's put it here. Okay, my no course found. All right, so you can still return 200 because it's not really an error. It's just there is no course for that. So on the front end, we're gonna check whether this data is empty or not. Remember, we always do this checking on the front end. Okay, so it would be null. All right, okay, so let's come over here. Okay, and after that we can continue, which means that we have some data, which means that the result is not empty. If it is not, then here we can create some conditions. We're gonna call it order map. We're gonna put a lot of conditions inside this because we are going to place an order. So here we do order map, and inside this we'll have course ID. Now this course ID would exist in our database, so we say course ID, and then here order map, user token. This is a database field. These are all database field, and then here we'll have token. Do we have token? Looks like we don't have, so we can get a token. So user token. All right, now the token variable should exist. Just to make sure you don't have any error. Fine, if there was an error, it would show up over here actually. So this is one way to test. It looks like I didn't save it. Okay, no error. Okay, when you write this backend code, always try to save and test immediately on Postman. This way you'll have less errors, because a lot of you get stuck in backend and don't know what to do. One of the ways to do that is just go ahead and test it immediately. Status equal 1. Okay, for now we're gonna put it 1, but I think we'll change it. We're gonna talk about all of this later very soon. Okay, so here's this thing, and after that, based on this conditions, we need to go ahead and check whether there's a certain order already exists, because user may try to create or buy one item 2 times. So we need to check that whether the user already has bought it or not. Now this is our condition, but where to use this condition? Well, to be able to use this condition, actually we need to make a query. So we need to assume that we have a table, and that table stores all the orders that we make. Okay, but we don't have a table. If we have a table, we can send user token and course ID and status to see if there is an order or not. Okay, so that's what we want to do and to check. But right now we don't have a table, so we need to go ahead and create a table, and then after creating the table, we'll make this query. So this may sound a bit convoluted, but don't worry. Once I finish the whole API building, I'm going to cover everything one more time, step by step. So here I'm going to do PHP artisan make migration, and over here I would do create orders table. Okay, all right. So it already created a table, which is orders table, and if I see my migrations folder over here, I'll see that. Okay, right now it's there. Okay, let me close the window. All right, so a few of the things that we need to insert over here. Over here we do table, and string type over here will save user token over here. Whoever the user has placed an order, we want to save their token, because their token would be used for their identification, and token is unique. Table string, and then here total amount. We want to see how much money they have used this to buy the course. So that's why total amount, and this is the length of this, the string itself. And then over here we'll have table, and we'll use small integer, this one, and over here we'll save this course ID. All right, and a table over here, and small integer status, whether we have a successful order or not. We're gonna place them in this. Okay, so I'm going to save this. All right, and then over here I'm going to open up my terminal, and then we'll say that we have PHP artisan migrate. Let's run this command, migrate. Okay, it created a new database, so I'm going to check this right away in my MySQL workbench. So let me go ahead and check that. Now my database is this one, uLearning Riverpod tables, and hopefully I see this one, and if I want to select rows, nothing is there, and we see that everything has been created. Beautiful. So this is what we wanted. Now since this has been done, I'm going to close this. We don't need this anymore. Now over here we can make our query. Now we'll check based on our given condition. Anyway, so here we would say order res, which means order result, and we'll have order model, and here we do order and order map, and then over here we'll get this the first one. Okay, right. Now we need to import this one, so let's go ahead and do that. So here, this is the other problem, that we don't have this order table, right? So we need to go ahead and create this. Okay, so we need to create this order model actually, which we don't have yet. So we're gonna create another one. So we do PHP artisan make model, and it should be order, I think. Okay, I think it created successfully. Let's go ahead and check our models folder, and here we do see that, okay, order extends model. Beautiful. All right, now I'm going to come over here. Let's save this. Now if you save this, the error is gone, as you can see over here. Now at the top we have this array, which is actually associative array, and then in the array we created 3 fields: course ID, user token, and status. And then once I put this variable order map using this where function, then it's gonna actually insert all of these conditions. So which means that 3 of this condition would execute one time, and whatever the result is returned is gonna save over here. Okay, yeah, so that's how it works. So it's gonna take the first match, if there is one match, and put the result over here. So with this you learn how to actually how to use multiple condition in one statement in Laravel using this where, and then using this associative array method. Anyway, so let's continue. So we have this one, then we're gonna check on this. Okay, so here we'd say we're gonna call this empty function. All right, we'll see it's empty or not. Okay, and here it's order res. Okay, if it is empty true, if it is not empty, so over here if it's not empty, which means that an order has been placed before. Okay, in this case, which means that there is an order already placed for this user for this ID. Okay, if we fall in the below condition, it means we already have an order from the same user with the same course ID. All right, so that's why we have this negation over here. Beautiful. Now, so over here we could simply go ahead and return a response like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it here, and then we'll say like this. So inside we could do, okay, let's keep it as 200, and then over here we could just simply return data as empty. Nothing is there for now. Okay, all right. Even in fact over here we could also do the same. Nothing is there as empty. All right, cool. I know this code is a lot of code. A lot of you might not be familiar at all, but you can always compare with this given code in the section. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and save this. So we did that. Now after that, over here in our postman, looks like my postman is down again. So in our postman, let's make sure that we don't have any issue. Once again, a lot of you face this backend issue, don't know how to solve. One of the way to go ahead and run it step by step. All right, and okay, my server is not running, I know, so let's go ahead and run the server. PHP artisan serve like this. Okay, all right, now dismiss and update. No data found. Okay, 3. All right, there is a course, right? So everything is working correctly, because so far we can hit up to here. Okay, all right, so what is next? So if over here this returns empty, which means that there was no order placed for this user for this course ID. If it does not return empty, which means that there is an order for this course ID for this user. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys. Okay, after that, what I'm going to do over here, we are going to say your domain. All right, okay, and then we're going to read something from our env variable URL. Okay, so now with this env function, actually not a variable, so Laravel provides this env function. Because of this env function, you can access actually all the variables that are defined over here, or the properties. They are not really variable. So over here we are accessing app URL inside from this env function. Okay, so whatever is defined over here, you can access all of them using this env function. So that's what we are doing over here. All right, and after that we're gonna create a new map, and over here we'll once again put a lot of information about our order. So here we do map user token. Now this is a payment API, so there are a lot of things to actually take care. And here course ID. Now this map we are building over here right now, this one actually an array, associative array, we're going to send to our Stripe console, so that's why we need them. And then over here we do map created at, so here we do this one, and carbon. Now this time that we need to go ahead and import, let's see what we have this time or not. In some other places looks like no, so I'm going to go to our user controller, I think this one at the top. We have this carbon library. Let's go ahead and put it at the top over here. Okay, and after that the error is gone. Okay, all right, let's save this. Okay, all right, now we're going to put this information first in our database, because remember, once you are over here, it means that there was no order for this course ID, for this user token in our order table. First we make a query, and if it returns false, then we continue and insert it in our database. So let's go ahead and do that. So over here we would say order num, or order ID actually. Over here we would say order, and then insert get ID. So what it's gonna do is going to insert all this information. Remember, in our database we have user token, we have course ID, we have status, and we have created ad, all of these things. Then we're gonna put them in our database, because first time for this course ID, for this user token, we are going to put in our database as a record. Okay, and that's what we do that over here. And after doing it, we return the order number, which means that actually order ID, which actually means that row ID, because each of the order will have a row, and we are returning the row, and this is the function that what it does. So in Laravel, after this eloquent model, if you have this insert get ID, so what it's gonna do, it's gonna save all this information in a row and return the row ID, and that's what we did over here, and save it in this variable. And now I think over here I need to change it to 1. So I was a little confused. I mean, I forgot this. I wouldn't say confused. So over here we are checking. The status 1 means successful order. Okay. So here you can make a comment. Status equal 1 means successful order, which means that user has placed an order. Not only that, user was able to make the payment as well. So that's what we see over here. So first, when we save in the database over here, this order information, we see our status is 0. The first we save the order information in the database, and then later on we'll talk to Stripe, and from the Stripe, if we can make the payment, we'll come back to our application over here and then update this status, and that's how it works. So in next section we'll see actually how to implement really the stripe section, because so far there wasn't any stripe section apart from this one. So next section over here, all we do about stripe. Well, in this section, first we'll see if we can insert an order to our database. Make sure your server is up and running, and then we're gonna come over here and this one, okay. I'm gonna hit it, and hopefully I want you to I want it to be able to post data in the database. So what's gonna happen over here, if it can happen, then set as true, and over here, okay, for now I can just say success, okay, because we're still debugging. Okay, all right, so hopefully it should work if we don't have any mistakes. So let's go ahead and hit it. All right, okay, so here we do have an issue. It says that int string given called Udemy course Laravel framework, so there is a type mismatch problem. Let me change it to get and see what it says. Okay, it says the same thing. So yeah, definitely we are having an issue somewhere. So let's go ahead and debug it step by step. Now I'm just going to copy this, and I want to put it here, and I'm gonna say success 1, because it's more like I'm over here putting this line where we can actually like it's a breakpoint. Okay, so we'll make sure that up to here everything is fine. So this is a breakpoint. So everything is fine, then it's gonna return us this one, the success 1. So let's hit it now. Okay, yes, we get it. So we have problem from here. So these lines that we have problem. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to say put it here. So we're gonna check out, even I don't know what's the problem, so let's do it step by step. Okay, fine, which means over here there was no problem up to this line. Now I'm going to put it here, and this time I'm going to have a different log so that it's more obvious to us. Okay, fine. Okay, so far so good. So the problem happens over here in this line. Looks like this line doesn't really get submit data in our database. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to put it one more time, and then now we know that we have a special way of tracking this kind of bug, right? So let's see, what do we have? Okay, so we have everything over here, and we don't have any try catch clause. So I want to have a try catch clause just like this. Okay, all right, so that we can know the exact error that's happening. So this is the whole method over here. Okay, so I'm going to cut everything inside this. Okay, all right, and then I'm going to have try catch like this, and here I'm gonna put my stuff, and right here I need the catch section, so I'm going to copy it from here, this catch, and I'm gonna be here, put it right, and we should not have any issue over here at least. Okay, so now let's go ahead and hit it and see what's going on. Okay, right, so now you see that we have this issue where total amount doesn't have a default value. So it looks like in our database we are not putting total amount. Okay, so that's the problem. So let's see. Okay, here are we supposed to put total amount? Am I missing something? So here I'm going to put this total amount map, and here we'll say total amount, and then over here we'll say, what is it? What is our variable name? So our variable name is order res. So we'll go to order res. Not really, we cannot go to order res. Actually, we have to go to search course, this one. The search course would find the course, and as it finds, it will have value. So we can use that value over here, total amount, search course, and then here we can say price. All right, and it should work after this. What is this problem? We were not supposed to have this problem though. Okay, it's gone. Now let's try this. Success, beautiful. So which means that in our database we have a record where it says it is successful. So let's check our database. So far it's all empty. I'm going to refresh all. Okay, it looks like we don't see anything here yet. Or okay, right, so here course ID 3, total amount 45. Yes, so we are successfully able to insert this ID in our database, this placement order, or order placement actually. And here you see the important part is course status. Here status 0, that means that here, why we put 0? Because we just put the record in our database about this course ID for this user, but we didn't make the payment. Once you put it here, you'll go back to your backend code, and from there you'll talk to Stripe server, and if you can make the payment there, we'll come back and update this one. Okay, status 0 to 1. All right, and if we can do that, earlier we have seen over here, like in this section, status is 1, because every time first anybody place an order, we want to see, well, for that user ID, for that order, for the status 1, if something exists in our database or not. Okay, if already a successful order exists, then we just simply going to return from there. Okay, all right, so we have an order, no course found. Maybe we can change it. The order already exists. Okay, the order already exists, like that. Okay, so that's how we will say. Hopefully it makes sense. Okay, cool. So since we are able to put this over here, now what are you going to do? I'm going to try to place the same order again, and this time we are going to see it says that this order already exists. So let's try it, and it looks like we didn't see what we were supposed to see. Okay, let me go ahead and check. Okay, everything is fine over here. Okay, why we have this one? The reason is because here you see status equal 1, right? Okay, but here status is 0, so which means that, of course, this is not a valid payment order record. Okay, it's not a valid payment order record. But if somehow, okay, let me go ahead and refresh it database, because I think we already altered some of the records. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete one of them. Let's delete rows. Okay, apply. All right, fine. Close. Now if I'm going to somehow change the status, once again this status would be changed automatically once we are done with payment. Okay, so I'm going to apply, close. Okay, now let's try postman. The order already exists. Okay, so that's how it's going to work eventually. Hopefully it makes sense. Now I'm going to go to our database and I'm going to change this to 0. All right, okay, cool. So now we understand how the order should work. Once again, this one would change after placing an order. So any kind of e-commerce you work, first you have to put your valid order, you have to put your order information in your database in something called orders table. Go to Stripe server, make the payment, come back and update this. And if you update this, you'll get something like this, which means it prevents from replacing same order again and again. Okay, cool. So we were getting this, so which means that we were able to insert this, right? So right now we don't need this anymore, so let's remove that. And after that, this is the core part of our payment section, our checkout API. So here we are going to create a variable and we can call it checkout session, and then here session, and then here we'd say create. All right, now this session create, this function actually creates a session in our application, which means that this certain event is going to be alive in the memory. And because this is a session, so during this session a lot of the data would be saved in the memory automatically, so that those data could be shared in our application in different places. So that's how, and that's why actually you go ahead and create a session. Now payment in general, regardless you use Python, PHP, Java, if you want to work with any kind of payment system, they will always say, their API would always say go ahead and create a session. Okay, otherwise you just won't be able to create API. I mean, you won't be able to check out, because payment needs a complex interaction with different servers, not only with our own server and app, also third-party servers. And third-party servers actually does a lot of redirection from here there. So that's why we need this session. Session would be able to grab the data, save it, so that we can later use in our API and in our application. Anyway, so now what it does, this session create, it takes an array, as you can see over here. Well, in Dart this is called a list, but here we call it array, associative array. So one of the first thing you want to do here is called line items. Okay, all right. So this line items, what it does, it takes more list inside list. Okay, so you could understand it like this, or an array inside array. So here, this is, we already have an array. A create function, you have to assign it array. That's all. I mean, that's the first thing. Okay, and then now, because this is an associative array, so one of the properties is I mean, this is our first array element, but this one itself takes more array, as you can see inside this. And where is this coming from? Actually, this is coming from the official site. Okay, so I'll put a link in so that you can check it out. Everything is there, but of course some of the things you need to understand based on your language and framework. So inside this, you need to mention your first parameter, which is called price data, and inside this we have to have something like I mean, more array. So it may sound a little complex over here, but this is the thing that you'd be doing regardless you use Python, PHP or whatever, and every time you'd be doing the same thing. Okay, so it may look a bit of confusing, but this is the same thing that you would repeat again and again. So here we say currency. Our currency is USD. And then over here we'll have product data. Now of course you can see product data, this thing is information about our product. So here we'll have name of our product, which you need to submit in our in this Stripe database later on. Okay, so this is our product name, and then here you also need to have description. I think these two fields are compulsory, so you have to have them because you have to at least tell people what's the product name and product description, because these two things would be shown during the checkout. When we go ahead and click go buy button, product name would be shown on the UI. Okay, that would be coming from Stripe, because in Stripe will save this, and then this would be shown for the user, like this is the product you are buying. Okay, and this is the product description, so this information would be shown to user. Now, all right, in general, your price data contains all the core information. So one of the information was like our currency, other one was product data, and now we'll continue here, unit amount. Okay, now here we are going to use another interesting function of PHP, which is called intval, this one. So what it does, it tries to, if you give it a decimal number, it would, or a number, and if it has decimal, it would strip out the decimal just to give you the integer. So here it's intval, means integer value, and then here we'll take the price. Okay, all right. Now if intval didn't make sense to you, it's like this. So intval, how it's going to work, if you gave it 20, say like this, so the output would be just 12. Okay, all right, like this. So that's what it would do. Now of course this could create a problem, like if you see, if you have like this, sorry, then if you strip out this one, so this is going to create a problem, right? So what do we do? Here is this one thing. Now the other thing is that when you have this USD, now this USD, at least in Stripe, say this whole USD, first time when you submit it to Stripe, it's going to convert it to actually cents. So that would be, so what's going to happen if you submit it to database in Stripe, I mean in Stripe server, say 1230, so it's going to submit as cents, so 12 cents or and 30, well, whatever it is. Okay, but now this would be completely wrong, but because we have $12.30, but now if you put it in Stripe, it's going to be 12 cents and a little more. So what do you have to do? You need to multiply it using 100. Okay, so here we are going to do it. So here we'll have this multiplication. All right, okay, so now with this, if we have in Stripe server, so that would be like this. Okay, all right, and what if you have something like this? So in that case, because we have this interval, so interval would return us like this. So it will strip out the last two digits, okay, because we are multiplying it with 100. Section is more about how you understand. All right, okay, so go ahead and understand this whole thing, and after that we'll continue. So here we are, so we have this price list, and after price data, here you need to have this something called quantity. Now for now we are having quantity only one, because we are submitting one item or one course. All right, okay, but in future we may do it for multiple courses that you can buy at the same time. So once here, now we can also, we have to submit some other information which is called payment data, payment intent data. Here, So here actually it contains some metadata. What is metadata? Now metadata is actually some extra information that you want to give it to Stripe. Okay, for example, you can do like this: order num, because which means that your order ID, okay, so which is called order num. In our case there was order num, which is our order ID that's saved in database, and user token. Now this information is not really important to Stripe because this token doesn't really make sense to Stripe, but you can save it in Stripe as well, which would be good for you if you want to do further investigation about a payment. So that's what the metadata does. Now of course this kind of metadata, one, you need to put inside payment intent data, and as well as you need to take it out and put it outside as well. So I'm going to copy this one, and then here I'm going to put it. Now once again, this while you write this code, if you get lost, you can always check out from the source code. All right, so there are other things that we can set up, which is called mode. It says what kind of state you are in, which is called payment mode right now. And at the same time, here we'll have success URL, which is very important. So once actually everything is done, I think this is the success URL that should be presented to the UI, which means that after payment is done, Stripe will show you a UI. But of course, which UI to show, you need to specifically mention. Okay, now in our case we have your domain, which is I think we have defined at the top, which is our domain name, or you can also call it my domain. And then over here you have to have your server, I mean the endpoint or an access point that Stripe application can access and show, right? Okay, so that's one, but we don't have things here yet. And here we'll have a cancel URL, which also means that if the user wants, they can cancel the payment as well. Okay, so that would be a different URL, your domain, and then here. All right, so these are the things that we need to do, but of course we need to fill it in for these two sections. So in general, if you have localhost, you'll just have an more something like endpoint like this, cancel. Okay, but it might not be always true. So because here we are on what is it, Stripe, right? So Stripe has to work with HTTPS. So this is where actually we're gonna check this thing in next section with ngrok, because we need to set up our ngrok, and then we get the URL, and this is where we'll put it. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so let's continue to work on this. And now here we have this API that's almost ready. Now this is the time that we go ahead and try it on Postman. Okay, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so here we have an internal error, and it says that this API cannot be made with publishable API key. Please use a secret API key, and you cannot find a list of your API keys, or you can find actually over here. So that's what it says. So it's asking us to go to the dashboard and get the API key, and the current one, the one that we have over here, it says that this is wrong. Okay, and here it says that, well, it's a publishable key, and it says that this API call cannot be made with publishable key, and it's saying we should use secret API. So that means over here this is not secret API, this is a publishable key. So we got it wrong. So we'll go to our dashboard and get the correct one. Now this is our dashboard, and actually this is the one that we want. Okay, hide it, show it. So go ahead and copy this one, not this one, and then replace this. All right, and after that over here, so what's going to happen if it hits this session create section, it would be submitting this information to our Stripe account, and then after that it's going to return us a URL, and we need to return this URL. So let's go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to put it here for now, and inside this data here we do checkout session and URL. Now this URL would be coming from Stripe, from this object over here, and we'll say that order has been successful, order has been placed, order has been placed. All right, okay, so far go ahead and try this thing, and we're gonna see what happens. So let's hit it over here. Okay, order has been placed, and this is the URL actually that we saw, and let's go ahead and open it up in a browser. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So yes, this is what we wanted, and actually this is a web view, right? And this would be working in our app as well. So once this is returned, this URL, which means that this URL, so we're going to return this in our front end. Okay, and front end to take this and open up web view, and if it does, it would look like this. Of course, smaller than this because this is a desktop. So on our mobile phone, we'll see this responsive version of this. So we have to type in our email, card number, and every information, and then we're gonna hit pay. So it will take us to the payment section. So what happened over here, so far all we worked to get a successful payment URL. So this is a URL that would give us, correct URL. With this, we're gonna submit our information to Stripe. Okay, and then we'll make the payment. So at this point, payment is not done. So all we work to get is this successful communication with the URL. Okay, with the Stripe actually, not with the URL. So when you make a payment, once again, let me go through it very quickly. When you buy things, you should always check your product exists in your database or not. Okay, that's the first thing you always have to check. And then you have to check whether the same order has been placed in the database. It means successful, which means after payment. If this was not done in database, which means that if this was not placed in database, if this is not a successful payment, then we continue. Okay, first we add this information in our database. Okay, make sure that payment, this status is 0. We'll change it later. Okay, and after that we get a URL from our Stripe server, and along with this we have to have some information that we need to pay in, we need to submit in Stripe server. Okay, and if successful communication is done, Stripe server will give us this checkout session URL. Okay, with this we'd be able to show the user that okay, our payment UI looks like this, and once we type in our information, we'd be able to make the payment, hopefully. But of course, this is just one part has been done. There is another part that we need to work on. So in next section, we'll see how to work on that. Since we are able to get this link, so we're gonna try it to take a look at the whole thing, how it works. We're gonna look at it from our Stripe dashboard or console. So let's go ahead and hit it one more time. This time it might give us a new one. So whatever it is, I don't need to touch it, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Stripe console. Now in general, once again, if you come to developer sections, well, these are here, you'd be seeing whether we have any successful API request or not. And here it already said that we have 5 successful API requests. So you can come over here and view them, or from here you can also come to log and you'd be able to see that. Okay, and we'll see that later, it doesn't matter. So first we're gonna take a look at this one. Now if you do want, you can also actually over here filter based on time. So I'm gonna check last 1 hour what happened. Okay, so this is the one that I've just done just now according to my timeline. I'm going to click on this. Well, it's already here actually. So here we do see that status code 200. Okay, so that means it's a successful request. That's fine. And what else? Now this is the response body. Do remember this, it says that it's a post request, right? Of course it's a post request because we are submitting information to our backend. Now this is the post request. Then what is the request body? Sorry, this is the response body, right? And this is our request body, and this part is where the data came from our server to here. Okay, from our server to here, and this is something that we have posted. So these are basic information, like we have posted metadata. We know that we have posted user token and order ID or row ID, which is from our database. If we go to our database and we can confirm it by selecting rows, so we have 11 of them. Okay, right? And user token F41, so that's what we see over here, row 11, user token F41. And this is also inside this payment intent, which we have seen before. Okay, so metadata, order num, user token, and metadata again. So this is exactly what we have seen, and we can view it from here. And line items, definitely it goes from the very first over here. So this one. Okay, this is our line items, and all this information like course name, course description, we have everything, right? So here we see that course name, course description, this is coming from our backend, and the total price was $45, so it is 44,500 cents. All right, and then currency is USD, and over here success and the cancel URL. So both of them we have submitted, and looks like we have an issue over here, so I don't think we need double slash. So I guess over here we are passing one slash, so remove that because our domain itself has a slash at the end, so we don't need that. Okay, so that's what we get, and so this is what in response we get. Okay, so in response, this is the response body, and previously we have seen that one of the things we cared about this URL. So from the session UI, so this is the URL that we have grabbed over here. Okay, the URL, but you can also grab other objects if you want. There are a lot of objects, but in general this is the one that you'd be needing. But if you want, you can pull up more information and save locally, so that you can use them some information later. But anyway, we don't have much information over here. We do see that our order number and user token that's been sent as well, cancel URL, success URL. Okay, all right, so these are the things mostly that this is what we care. Okay, so now with this you will have a very good idea that how Stripe payment works. Okay, and you should also be spending a bit of time to understand this data, because this plays an important role, what you want to return and what you want to show to the user. Okay, so they're very important. Anyway, this your Stripe payment section should be pretty solid, the knowledge itself. All right, okay, well, in this section we'll take it one step further. We'll go back to our postman again, and I'll make the head again, and I'll get this URL, and I'm gonna go to browser, and I'm open up the browser, going to open it up. So this is what we have, and then I'm going to do inspect over here. I'm on Chrome browser. Make sure you're on the Chrome as well, and then I'm going to click on this network tab. Now I'm going to fill up some random email. It doesn't matter, and the card information is dummy card information. You can do as I'm doing. That should work, and it's all dummy data. Well, I guess these are all dummy data. Okay. All right, and that's all. Okay, so in mobile application, actually, this is what you will see. Over here, you will see your app name, your product name. This is our product name, actually, or course name in our case. And this is the description that we are going to buy. So that's what you will see in your mobile application. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and make the payment. I'm going to click on this, and I'll observe the behavior, that how it goes. All right, so we do see that here it's using our kind of token. Now this token is definitely coming from Stripe, and here it says that it can't find this one. Okay, so it couldn't find this success route, which is already said that the route success could not be found, right? And it stopped over here. And at the same time, if we go to our Stripe section, and let me refresh this, I'll see a new one over here. Yeah, this is the one, and these are the related information that we are trying to do just now. So first it was our checkout session, all right, and we were given this URL. We copied this URL and we put it on the browser, and then actually we were redirected to this kind of well, I would say API endpoint, which belongs to Stripe, actually, not to us. And here there are some related information still about our products, which we see. This is our product description, product name, quantity, a lot of information. Okay, so it looks like it was trying to pay, and the payment was almost successful, but it got stuck with this success URL. So it's like that it was trying to make the payment, and it did, and after that actually it was trying to redirect our user to this endpoint, but unfortunately this endpoint doesn't exist yet, so we need to go ahead and create one. So let's go ahead and do that. So over here I'm going to go ahead and look for web.php, this one, web.php, this file. Okay, it should be inside routes, and actually here inside this routes folder. Okay, if you don't know where it is, okay, routes, web.php. All right, so over here we are going to define a new route. So here we'll say route get, and we're gonna call it success. And of course, since it's a route, we have to have our controller over here. So our controller name in this case would be home controller. You can call it anything actually, and here we're gonna say it's a class, and then here the endpoint name is, the endpoint is going to refer to a method. The method is success, but these things actually we don't have yet. This home controller doesn't exist, this method doesn't exist, this is just an endpoint. This endpoint is same as this one, okay, which is our success URL. This doesn't exist, this doesn't exist. So the first thing you want to do over here, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to make a controller, so I'll write php artisan make controller. Now this is we're gonna do inside our web folder. Now we do have API folder, but we don't have web folder, so here I write web, and hopefully it's gonna create a folder, and then inside the folder it's gonna create this controller, and I'm gonna hit enter, and we'll see that it's already over here, right? So that's what has been generated for us. Now our success route method, okay, so that would be our first one, and public function, and we're gonna call it success, and that's it. Okay, that's as simple as that one. Now inside this okay, so this is something that we haven't done before. Let me save this, and home controller is imported at the top, so controllers, home controllers, but I don't think this is something we wanted. We wanted a different home controller, so I do see that the path name is not the same. So we don't want it from admin folder, we want it from app http folder, and then controllers, and after that here we'll have web. So that should be our correct path name. Make sure this is correctly written, otherwise we'll get issues. Now we are over here. Okay, well, now we are inside this controller, and here we says that it belongs to web folder, but it doesn't really matter which folder it belongs to, but it matters the route folder, which file it belongs to. So now here we said that it belongs to web.php, not api.php, which means that this is actually web communication, not through any API or any kind of middleware. So that's one thing you have to know. Now, why this is not defined over here? In general, these are defined over here. That's because you want to have a secure communication between you and your app through our server, but when it goes to third-party API, you are going to visit them, they are going to visit you. So you can't really have them inside this kind of structure or architecture, because your endpoints, they have to be open so that other people can access them, right? Just like web application, in general you can access any pages. So that's what happens. And because this process, the whole process would happen through web view, so this is actually the actual reason why we put it over here, because just now we saw that you type in your information, that's actually a web page, which is a web view. So if we have web view, you have to put your routes inside this web.php, because eventually when Stripe replies us back using the success URL, it is trying to talk to web endpoint, not really app endpoint, because Stripe doesn't have idea about actually our app endpoint and things like that. And second, because Stripe is a third-party application, they want to access this, so it has to be open for it so that it can access anytime. So that's why it's over here. Now if you define any of your route in this web.php, and if you want to visit this route eventually, to view it, you have to define the related resources like the UI. Like if we come over here, you see it didn't find this success route. Now success route should be able to show us UI. So there is no UI over here, right? We have to define this UI. So we're gonna have to define our own UI. Now once again, this endpoint refers to a method, this one. Okay, now this method should return something. Okay, and it should return something like view. But of course you might say you want to return JSON information. Okay, all right, you could do that. Hello, you could do hi, and it's gonna work as well. Okay, let's save this, and if we take this right now and we're gonna come over here, let's see if we can make this payment one more time. It says that the link expired, so let me get a new link, and most probably my server is down. Yeah, the server is down actually. All right, okay, so okay, anyway, no problem, so we can get a new one, I believe. Right, so let's go ahead and get a new one from here, and let's see, let's put it over here and we'll see how it behaves this time. So I'm going to put my information, and in general this one 4242, I think it has to do with 12 digits or 16 digits. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Well, any name is fine. All right, so we'll see this time what it show us. So it's saying it's processing done. Now this is the thing. Okay, so while it does look like it returns us something, this time it was returning us this JSON data. But of course, as I said earlier, that we want to return something that is UI, right? Again, we are still in web view, so we have to return a UI. And how do you do that? So the return, when we return UI from a method, like this is a method, right? We have to create our UI first. In general, you create your UI inside resources views section. Okay, now here I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it success.blade.php. okay, all right, so over here I'm going to create a very simple HTML file. HTML, well, it didn't really create on its own, but anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So over here I'm gonna have body, I guess, body, and body. All right, so inside the body I'm going to have say h1 tag, successful payment. Okay, and h1. So let's see, so this is our view right now. Now in Laravel, when you create a view, it has to have blade.php in general. Okay, it has to be inside this views folder, and you can name it anything, and then it has to have a prefix, which is success in our case, and blade.php is must. Okay, now this is our view, and we have some information over here. And as I said, that this view, okay, let me close this for now. We don't need this, we don't need this. Wow, so many of them are opened. Actually, we don't need any of this. So all I needed early, our home controller. So now over here we can return something called view. I think they call it view.php, or not view.php, it's a view, and inside that you have to return your view name. Or what is our view name? Our view name is success. Okay, all right, so that's what we are returning. Now this is a special function that gets called to represent this HTML. Now this success refers to this one. If you named it, for example, so the best tag.blade.php, over here you'll write the best tag. Okay, And once again, this method refers to this method, and this one over here refers to this one. Okay, so we should be very careful. You can name them anything actually you want, it doesn't really matter, but you have to be consistent and you have to make the connection correctly. All right, so now we're going to return a view. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit this one more time, and I'm going to copy this. That's a lot of tests though. Now we're gonna come over here and try it again. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and do that. An email is okay. And 4242424242, you get the idea. So every time we are doing test, we have to do it like this. All right, I think I can, nope. All right, we don't need that. So it's working. Let's see how it goes. Processing the data, it takes a bit of time. All right. Perfect. Successful payment. Perfect. So sorry about this. So now here, this is what we see from here and from our view, right, where we said successful payment. But of course, this is far from done. There are a lot of other things to do, so don't get confused that it is done. Of course, it's not done. We have a lot of other things, like, of course, if this is a web view, now we need to go back to our actual app mode from here. Remember, up to now we are still in web view, but of course this web view would do still in our app. We have to do that. We are doing this browser, using this browser to test. It's easy to test in browser because you can see a lot of things, what goes on if things go wrong. Anyway, so we'll also have a button over here. That button would tell us to go back to our API. And now if we go back to our Stripe over here, okay, let's go ahead and see. Okay, so that's what we have seen over here. Okay, so this is given us successfully a bit of the information where it says that it is successful. So right now this is a HTTP request, but we want to make it HTTPS because otherwise eventually it won't work. And the reason is why, because you see here we do show that we are very successful. That's first thing. I mean, the payment was successful. But what happens after payment? What do we do? So after payment, our database record should be updated. Here we said early in our payment controller, like this section. Okay, let me close this, and let me restart my server as well. PHP artisan serve. All right. Okay, cool. So here we said that our status was 0, right? During payment in our local database, it's 0. But we need to update it. And how do you do that? You can't really ask user, hey, go ahead and update it, click a button. We don't do like that, okay? I mean, you can't ask your user to update database. So everything has to be automated. Okay. So how do we do that? Now here you see that we have this success. That's fine. Even we show success, we have internally have to do the mechanism. When you hit this point, success, internally you have to have the mechanism of updating our database. Now previously you have seen that when we try to make a payment, a lot of things goes on. Actually, you'll see that a lot of interaction is going on over here. If you remember early, if you observe very carefully, there are a lot of links. You can also see their progress over here. So actually that's happens our server and Stripe communication, because Once the payment has been done, server confirms, Stripe confirms with us that okay, the payment has been done, and we can detect that. But for now, while we just see it goes and it shows up, but we don't have this mechanism to detect. So we have to have the mechanism to detect that payment has been done internally, okay, so that our server knows that payment has been done, and then we can update our database. So this is where a new mechanism called webhooks comes in. They call it webhooks. Well, there could be many reasons, but I believe because they hook your server with another server, so two servers, they're connected and interact. This could be the reason why they name it. Now, one of the things that we have to do over here, first we need to find our API.route, this one, and over here we're gonna create a new route. Okay, all right, so route, I think we say any. Now over here we'll say web go hooks. You can name it actually anything, and then over here we'll have it like say payment controller, this one, but this time we'll call it web go hooks. Let me change the naming. I don't want to do it like this. Let's be consistent. All right, okay. Now you also notice that over here we are not using it inside our middleware. That's because the server once again doesn't have the idea of middleware, so you want to put it outside. Okay, now you may think, well, then it becomes insecure communication. No, it is not, because even before we hit this, we have to hit checkout first. So this whole thing starts from our own client application, which is our app. Then it comes to our server, and then it talks to the Stripe, and then Stripe talks back to us. And during that moment, we'll use this one. And as Stripe talks back to us, we also have a way to authenticate that whether it's coming from Stripe or not. Okay, so it's completely secure. We can take it easy. All right, so you hopefully understand. So our application would start this, because our application would first check whether a user is valid or not. Then we'll come to the server, we'll check a lot of data, we'll authenticate it, and then we'll see a product exists or not. And after that, we insert into database. Then we go to Stripe server, we make the payment, and the Stripe server would go back to us with certain information, and we'll authenticate that. Okay, so there is no non-secure, because over here in this method we'll see how we authenticate it. Anyway, so now let's come over here right below it. Let's go ahead and create a method. So here we're going to create a method, public function web go hooks. All right, just like this. Now over here we are going to use a lot of logging. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another package, use over here illuminate. I don't know which one is that, but okay, let's go ahead with this, and then support, and then facades, and then there is one called log. So we're going to use this one because we want to log a lot of information. All right, and over here we're going to start like this. Okay, because this is very important, we can observe everything happens from our log rather than going to Stripe account. Okay, starts here. Okay, just put it there. It's not going to influence your application, but it would log everything. Okay, all right. Now we need to have this Stripe and set API key. All right, so here we need to put our API key. And what is that? Now we need to go back to our Stripe dashboard. All right, so I'm gonna go back here, developer sections, API key, and over here I'm going to get to this one. Well, it looks like it wants me to get it, so I'm going to copy this. Actually the same as earlier one, so you're gonna put it here. All right, okay, cool. Okay, now over here we'll also have endpoint secret, this one, and this is the one that we authenticate from the Stripe with the Stripe, because our application will have a certain secret, and that secret would be coming from our own Stripe account. Remember, our own Stripe account. So that means that secret only you and Stripe knows, not other people. You means your server. Okay, so this is where we'll put, because you see we already have an app, right? We already have an app. So this app has secrets. So we have already two secrets, which is this and this. Now we've been already communicating with Stripe using this one. Okay, all right, so that's one way to understand, because this secret only you have access, no other people, right? And you also should not be sharing this thing with anyone else. Anyway, so that's to assume and confirm that it's completely secure. And now, just now we are talking about webhooks, right? And we created a method called webhooks. You can name it anything, but over here we need to have a certain key, and that key comes from here, as you can see over here. Okay, and I have previous endpoints, so because I was using the same app for many courses, so you guys don't have this, and it's fine. So just go ahead and create an endpoint. Okay, all right, and what is our endpoint name? Well, now this is interesting. So this time we need to go ahead and use ngrok http ad, because this endpoint, this one over here, needs http link, otherwise it's not gonna work. Okay, so I'm going to have this one, copy this and put it here, and then here our endpoint name was webhooks. Okay, remember this one, the one that we created over here, webhooks. You should copy it correctly or name it correctly and put it here. Stripe payment. All right, so, and I do believe select events we need over here. Select all accounts email. You have to do that. We have to select some of this balance, because here webhook wants to know what kind of endpoint service do you want to use. Okay, so go ahead and select the way I'm doing, and this should be the last one, and then after that here you say add events. Okay, all right, so well, we don't have anything. Now this should be your endpoint. Now this is our like local host public domain right now. So this is how Stripe would find us. Now we have to reveal the secret from here. Copy this, and this is the one that I was talking, and you only get this one after creating the specific endpoint. Now remember, if you change your ngrok, which sometimes we do because we know that ngrok is not long running process, this one, If you do change it, you have to create a new endpoint, just like the way I did, so you can ignore the old one. So copy this and put it here. So this is the secret. Now we have the secret, Stripe has the secret. So with this, we'd confirm with each other that we are the correct people that communicating with each other. All right. Okay, right. Now payload. At file, I think get contents. All right, and here PHP input. Now, what is this thing? Well, this thing is actually because we are trying to communicate with two different servers. Now, our server should create a special memory for state management. You can understand. So this is where every communication will go through, like exchanging information, shaking hands, and confirming we are good. So we need to give it a special memory in our server. This is where it would be here. We specify it. If you use other framework like Node.js framework or Python framework or Java framework, you should have similar mechanism. You have to have this one, but they may call it a different thing, but the idea is same. All right. Okay. So this is one thing you have to know. So once again, this is more like you can understand we are creating a shared memory so that two servers can exchange information and they get to know each other. All right. And then here we'll have sig header. All right. And we'll have server. Now this is also coming from directly PHP, HTTP. This part has nothing to do with Laravel. Stripe signature. So spell it correctly. HTTP Stripe signature. Now over here, I believe in this shared memory, Stripe would create a signature or a special, like special characters. So that would define, okay, I'm Stripe. So a lot of things would go within this thing, because remember earlier we have installed Stripe SDK, right? So it would take care of everything. A lot of things will happen internally. Okay. All right. So here event equal null. We don't have any events. Now this is where it's very, I mean, all of the steps are important. There's not that nothing is not important, because we are only writing what we need. All right. Okay. Set up buffer. So by this time we are set up buffering and exchanging. Set up buffer and handshake done. Because when you hit this one successful, it means most probably we are connected with the server. All right. So now over here we have to do like this, try catch. So let's go ahead and do try catch. All right, and inside this here we'll have unexpected value exception. Unexpected value exception, this one. And well, as you can see from the name, if things go wrong, we can catch that or terminate. Okay, so here you could do log info and unexpected. Let me copy this one. If things go wrong, you can put it here, and E. So remember, it's not comma, it's dot, because in PHP you have to use dot to concatenate a string. I think same as Dart. Anyway, so here HTTP response code, I believe this one, 400, something went wrong, and we exit. I mean, if we are here, there is no need to continue. We just log it. Okay, right over here. So we have to have this. Now we need to access our Stripe SDK. It's in vendor folder. If it's in vendor folder, if you want to access, you can also do it like this, Stripe. And I think they have a class webhook, and from the class you want to call construct event. So earlier we have this information, this fee information. Now we need to pass down to it. All right, so one of the first thing we would do payload, second we would do sig header, and third we would do endpoint secret. Okay, we need this thing, and I think the error is gone, and you can know a little bit about it from here as well using the provided JSON payload. Okay, throws an unexpected exception if the payload is not valid JSON and if the signature verification fails for any reasons. Okay, all right, so it does construct event, and then it talks to Stripe server and give us something, and we save it in this variable which we have defined at the top. Beautiful. Okay, so make sure the steps are correct, and I always provide the code, so go ahead and always check the code that we don't have any issue. Now over here we can actually use another catch after catch, but this time it would be coming from Stripe, because the earlier one was actually from PHP. So this is coming from Stripe exception, and then inside this we could use signature verification exception. I think this is the most important thing. Well, it means that Stripe has denied us. Most probably something is wrong with this key or any of them. And if other PHP problem like this one, it would fall back to this one. Over here we would catch Stripe error. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this and put it here, and we can also copy this one. No, I just want to copy this and put it here. Okay, right, and give it a little bit of space that we know the error. Okay, right, and everything else we can just copy from here and put it. Fine. So this would be our error. Okay, the error we get. All right, and after that here we have event, the event that would be returned from here. Okay, and then inside this will have type, so we need to check the type. Charge dot succeed, spell it correctly, succeeded, I think this one. So this one, once the payment is done and Stripe confirms with us through this endpoint, through this credentials, then it would give us a lot of objects. So one of the objects is a type, and type would tell us what happened to the payment. If the type is equal to charge.succeeded, so with this we'd confirm, okay, yes, our payment has been successful. Okay, so that's what we are looking for. And then let me see, let me go to this developer sections, logs, and okay, so here we'll create a variable session equal event, and after that here we'll get data, and then here we'll get object, this one. Now these things we'll see soon one more time. Once we are done with the payment, we would get this objects metadata and analyze them so that it makes more sense. Session, over here it will have metadata. All right, and here we'll have order num. So from metadata we'll get our order num metadata, and it will have an object of order num. Now this is actually coming from, because remember earlier we are saving order num over here, right? This one. Now we are looking for this one because by this time we know our payment is successful. So Stripe object, session object will have order num. We will grab that one. Now you know where I'm going with this, because we want to update the database record. So we need which column is this, right? Which ID is this, sorry, which not column, which row or ID is this. We can only know it through this. So make sure that you write all of them correctly. So now if we have this one, beautiful. Now here we can say user token equal now metadata and here user token. We know that earlier we also submitted user token in Stripe. Okay, so this is where the metadata comes in and plays an important role. All right, and we could do a bit of other thing over here. Let's log info, and then over here you could say order ID, this one here, order num. Okay, all right, and pretty much that's it. And this step we are going to actually create a new map, and with this map we are going to submit information in our database, and map and status. So here we are going to do status equal 1. Earlier it was 0. By this time we know that the payment was successful. Map here updated at. We can also update that certain row, the updated column, that yes, payment has been updated in certain time. So that would be now. Carbon.now gives you the time. Okay, all right, and then here we do where map, and another one is empty as well. And then here where map, here we do user token and user token, this one. All right, and then where map, here we'll have ID equal, say, order num, this one. And then here we'll call our order table, and where here we'll have where map. We don't need user token, so where map will have our user token and ID. This is our order ID, so this two will result in only one search in our database, and then whatever it is, it returns, and we updated with map. Now remember, map contains this update and this update. Okay, so in Laravel, if you want to update one row, the information, and if you also want to do it conditionally one after another, so here first you can create an associative empty array, and you put your conditions like we did over here, and they together will return one row from our database. And once we get that one, we update that row using other conditions like we have defined at the top. So in this case we are updating status and map status and updated at this two column or fields in order table for that certain row. Hopefully it makes sense. So here with order we return something and we immediately update our row. Hopefully it makes sense. All right, so with this actually we are pretty much done. The last line, and then we can go for testing. So here we do response code 200. Beautiful. So it's been a long session over here. So after that we'll test it and go back to our front end. Okay, so let's continue. Now before we continue to do the test, make sure that your ngrok is running. And one of the things you have to do inside ngrok is that, like this, you have to start it with 8000. Okay, ngrok 8000. If you don't do that, you might get error. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and start it. It has to be your port number, whatever the port you're using. If you're using 5000, you should use 5000 over here. The same for Node.js, guys. All right, so over here we are going to copy this one, and I'm going to put it in my env file over here, and that's all. Okay, all right. And one of the other thing I need to do right now, because I updated this one, we also need to update our Stripe dashboard. Now I'm going to come over here, webhook, and update details, this one, and I'm going to copy this and put it here. And I also want to update the path as well. It's API webhooks, API / webhooks. The reason is because if you see .api.php file over here, this one, inside a namespace or a folder actually, which is API folder, right? So it should be found inside your API folder. So now let's go ahead and save it. Okay, perfect. The setup is done. All right, now before we go ahead and start the checking with ngrok, we have to do another test whether we can access ngrok from our local host, right? So I'm going to come over here, put ngrok, and make sure that you say visit site. And of course here it says that route is not found, so it says the main route is not defined over here. Now in my case, I think I had the other welcome route. I have removed that, so I'm going to put it back. Actually looks like I don't have this main route, so that's why it's saying that, but our application, it still work without that. Okay, you can just put it here, view, well, I think that should be function return view welcome. Okay, that was the default conditions. For some reasons I deleted them, and this was the reason that why it is causing error. Okay, and it looks like we still have this issue, but the route is not found, but let me ignore that anyway. So this is the endpoint that I want to access, and sorry for the earlier problem, but this doesn't really matter to us. Okay, now we'll check that later, not at this moment. So this is our success route and endpoint actually, and which is referring to this one, and this one refers to a view. Oh, by the way, earlier section the view was capital letter. Actually I think it should be small letter. I checked it, it should be small letter. So it means that we are successfully able to access our backend. Now, I mean, using ngrok, what I could do, I can create another one, and I may call it cancel, and then over here, for now I don't have any files, so what I could do, I can just simply return empty data. Okay, and then over here I already have one, but now in that case I'm just going to remove this. I should remove all of this, and then I'm going to copy this and put it here, and I'm going to call it cancel endpoint, right? And then this is cancel too. Make sure that you write them correctly. Now anyway, so this was for success, and then now let's access the endpoint. Okay, right, this is what we wanted, and we see that. Beautiful. So this part is working, so which means we can use ngrok to access our server. Now of course if you want right now ngrok, you can also access it from your mobile phone or from anywhere. Okay, All right, so at this moment I'm going to come over here. All right, now another thing also, before we go ahead and try on Postman, another thing you have to do, make sure you run this command first. PHP artisan config clear, you do that, and then you run PHP serve artisan serve. Now this is very important, because every time if you make some changes on env file, like this is the env file, we made changes over here, right? You should clear the cache, otherwise it could create a lot of weird behavior. Okay, you have to do that. Okay, anytime you make changes over here, otherwise, especially about routes, you will have strange behavior if you change your route. Now we changed our app URL, that's also like our route, so you have to be careful about that. Okay, otherwise it's not going to work. And at the same time, I think I forgot to mention another changes that I made. This is a route service provider.php, route service provider.php, which is this file inside providers folder right after this HTTP models provider, this one. Okay, open up this file, and you need to come to this this section, the boot method, and over here you need to make sure that this line has this one. Okay, otherwise it's not going to work either. Okay, make sure the namespace is correct. I made this change anyway. So now after that we are going to hit this one. All right, so we get this, and we're gonna check our payment and make sure that your dashboard is correct. So I copied this. Okay, while we are using the same one, that's fine. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it here, and I'm going to use this browser tab over here so that I know what's going on. Over here, 42424242. All right. I'm going to use Ahmed. Any name is fine. Open up this, clean this. Let's make the payment. All right, let's see how it goes, whether we can hit everything correctly. Okay, it's going on fine. Payment successful, and we can hit success route. That's a beautiful thing. Now this is the time you go ahead and check your dashboard, but of course this is the earlier time, so I'm going to refresh it. We're going to see how it looks like. Okay, so here, so this is my current time actually, and here we do see that we have a bit of issue. 4000 bad request array callback must have 2 elements. Once you come over here, you'll see that we have this session, checkout session completed and failed, and nothing is in success over here, as well as it says 404 bad request. So that also says that something went wrong, and this most probably went wrong in our server, but we also need to verify. Now if you open up Postman over here and also directly hit this API webhooks and you hit it, and you will see that array callback must be exactly 2 elements. Now this is something that is coming from our webhooks, like over here. Okay, so this is coming something from here. Now most probably this is also our issue. Now let's see if we have log or not. This is always good to check the logs Laravel. I'm not sure we have enough log here. Looks like we do have logs, but not sure they are helpful. Okay, we do see webhooks, and array must have exactly 2 elements, exception, payment controller 120. So this is where it's saying, so payment controller 120. So this is the line it's pointing to. Okay, so come back and check Laravel log, which is also helpful. Over here it says that 120. Okay, so this is the line that has error. Now of course we can further debug, but we already know that this line has caused this error. So what I could do, and I know that the mistake that I made over here, so it shouldn't be like this. It should be this kind of third braces. Okay, so that was the mistake. So let's go ahead and save it. Okay, all right, so now of course let's hit this. Okay, well, undefined array over here where it says that stripe signature blah blah blah. Okay, and now this is definitely coming from this one where it says HTTP stripe signature. Okay, now what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to run it one more time and we'll try it on postman, on browser, and we'll see how it goes. Check out and ID equals 3. Let's go ahead and do that. Let us get this URL, and now we'll go to browser. Let's go ahead and hit it. Okay, and we are going to inspect it so that we know the exact problem. Okay, whatever it is, just go ahead and type in. Right, and let's do it here as well. All right, let's hit it. Okay, it's working, it's processing. Okay, well, we don't have any issues here. Now we're gonna go back to our Stripe and we'll see the latest log. All right, so latest log, among them there's one that's called filled, but that was like almost for me 10 minutes ago, but just now we tried a new one. That means that new one maybe didn't fail. In that case it might be inside the success. Yes, beautiful. So we do see that it's completed, status code 200, and charge succeeded. Now if it charge succeeded, in that case that means that it fell into this section over here. Okay, now if it fell into this condition, because you said charge succeeded, but of course you can also look for this one, it'd be the same thing. You can use any of these conditions. Beautiful. Now if it did so, then what does that mean? That means that our status was being able to set to 1. Remember over here we do all these conditions. First we look for it, because we need to look for our order in our database. Right after looking for it, we actually update it. Okay, so that's what we did, look for and update. So now if we go and check our database, we'll see that it is successful. Now in general, so in our case that should be the last order that we made, right? So let me go ahead and check it. So that should be our last ID. Okay, which is, let me open it here. There are just too many of them. Let me close them. Okay, so now let's open it up. Table. It looks like we need to open all of them and the orders. Select rows. Now the last one, yes, we see that the last one has been updated with status 1. Okay, all right, and then over here we also see that updated time. Beautiful. Okay, now so this checkout has been done. Rest of the things we have to check on our front end. Like for example, from here we need to direct our app, our user, to our app, because this still would be an web view. So we actually would go back to Flutter, but everything would still happen in our app itself. It will not go outside, but it's still a web view. Okay. All right. So now we need to confirm one more thing. Remember earlier we said that over here, if status equal 1 and if order ID, which is 3, and user token, it already exists, then we'll see the order already exists. So we should be returning from here, right? So we also need to check on this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit it one more time. And after hitting it, I'll see that I'm expecting this one. That means that this is the correct one, which means that we already placed the order. We are just returning. So let's go ahead and check it. Well, it's taking a bit of time. Let's try it one more time. Well, we don't know why it didn't go through. Yes, now it works. So the order already exists, which is this one. Okay, so beautiful. So far, so good, and everything has been working.